I'm a 25-year-old Hispanic female, and I'm having issues with my family. They want me to pay for my entire debt for all the cousins in the family, and you will not believe why they want me to do it. This is one you will not want to miss. If only I could choose my family, because if I could, I would not choose the entitled people I have in my life. My parents are fine, they have their flaws, but they've always done what's best for me. It's the extended family, especially the traditional grandparents, who think they can control my life, even who I love. I'm Hispanic, female 25, and the oldest of two girls. I have a very large extended family, and we've lived in the same neighborhood as them, and has a lot of Hispanic people. My family is very dominating when it comes to the life choices, and they're all set on the way of living. For me, I'm the black sheep of the family because I decided to marry out of my race. They acted like I've brought irreparable shame to the family, which was not the reaction I was expecting. My grandmother asked if I did not think Hispanic men were good enough for me, now that I had a well-paying job. It was as if I can control who I fell in love with. My husband Theo, who's 28, who's white, is the most wonderful and supportive person who has genuinely tried to learn more about my culture and build a relationship with my family. But they're not interested in it, and I'm constantly reminded that I am, quote, trying to be white by them. There was so much drama when I got engaged that I ended up having a small ceremony with my parents and his family, which did not make the family happy. I told them that if they continued to be racist towards my husband, then I was going to exclude them from my life. My grandmother tried to explain to me that they were not racist, but they just wanted to preserve our culture and not let it die out. She spoke as if what I have done had brought disgrace on the family, and she would have been ashamed in the community. Their obsession with, quote, what will people say, is one of the reasons I never moved closer to their community when I started working. They worry about what people will say as if my cousins are complete saints. They're a mixture of bad decisions and criminal behavior and have never worked hard for anything in their lives. Only two of them were like me and decided to make their home situation better by getting jobs and doing their things for themselves. Two of them still live with their parents, even though they're in their 30s. I suspect that one of them is involved in drugs, from what I've seen and heard, but his mother is the first one to call me a disgrace at any family gathering. I often want to tell her to stop focusing on me and focus on keeping her son out of jail, or, like most drug dealers in the community, dead. The other one is just a loafer who spends all day spending his parents' money. He does not want to work, even though me and Camellia, my other cousin, had tried to help him apply for jobs. The other girl's 25 with 4 kids, with fathers that no one knows, and she survives on food stamps and is on and off with her low-life boyfriend. Then there's Jerry, who appears once in a while when he's run out of money and needs a place to hide from his enemies. They cause headaches to the family in every direction possible because the family always has to bail them out. They're lazy and want handouts that'll never be able to sustain them. I'm tired of looking for jobs for them. The last time I got one was a cleaning job at my job, and she was mad at me because I was doing a different job than her. She slacked on the job and got fired within a few hours, and she had the nerve to say it was my fault to the family. But they get a free pass because none of them are in an interracial relationship or have mixed-race kids, so, quote, they're preserving the culture. I'm tired of my aunts trying to secretly set me up with Hispanic men at events and saying that my husband will be in attendance. It's very disrespectful of our marriage, and one of the reasons I do not go to that side unless it is to visit my parents and my younger sister. So when Thanksgiving was approaching, I was in two minds about joining them. The previous year I spent with my husband's family, but they live very far away. My husband wanted to spend it with my family because he's still trying to fit in and be accepted by them. It's sad seeing him that way because they do not deserve so much effort. Unfortunately, Theo was called in for an emergency meeting in another city for a few days before Thanksgiving. I wanted to go and have Thanksgiving with his family because they're really nice and have welcomed me with open arms. But my mom got the news that he was not going to be home for Thanksgiving because they text a lot. I'm so glad that he's close to my parents because they're the ones who matter to me. My mom asked me to come to dinner and promised me that no one would be after me because there was already drama because one of my other cousins got arrested last weekend for stealing at the department store. And the family was very upset with him. When the drama was on someone else, I could easily have a good Thanksgiving. My mom was not wrong. My aunts and uncles did not really show any interest in me and were only talking about Javier and the mess that he got himself into. I enjoyed the attention not being on for the rest of the night on me. This was until I saw my grandmother and she started to talk to me. She asked me where my husband was and I told her that he was at work. Then she started going off about how if I had a Hispanic husband, he would never abandon me on a day meant for family. So, thanks to her, my perfectly okay Thanksgiving was just getting worse. And it was only going to continue to be a dumpster fire because, well, in the middle of dinner, my grandfather made a speech about family. Then, he said that the decision I made to marry outside of our culture did not put our family into consideration. I was showing that I was being changed and trying to act like a white person, and they were not proud of me. I tried to tell him to stop talking like that, and about my husband, or I would just leave. He asked me if this was what I was learning by marrying a white man, to be disobedient. My parents looked like they just wanted the earth to swallow them right up then and there. My grandfather's word is the law around here, and I've gone against him and they've not forgotten. On a day that was supposed to be about giving thanks, I was being attacked because of who I loved. He told me that if he had done such a thing in his time, he would have been immediately kicked out of the family with no second chances. He said that my marriage would not prosper unless I had their blessing. Then, he said that the family have been discussing it for a long time, and they thought they found a way for me to repent for my sins and be accepted back into the family again. I was interested to hear what it was, because I had so much to say at the moment, and it was not words of gratitude. He said that the whole family knew that I had recently started a new job at a different branch, and I was earning a lot more than I used to. Well, I did not even question how they knew it, because I knew how they would find out anything they wanted if they put their minds to it. My parents would never tell them anything. They were very loyal. They said that my cousins were in a lot of debt and struggling to pay their bills and were stressed. My grandparents wanted me to pay all their debt as a Christmas gift for that year. He said that, if I did it, I would help the family because they're stressing so much because of my cousin's financial problems. They said that the family would forgive me for marrying outside my race and would accept Theo into the family. They would give my blessings they failed to give me when I first got married, thus recognizing my marriage in the family. I was absolutely shocked by the nerve they had to make absurd demands like that from me as if I were a bank. My cousins got themselves into such a mess because they did not want to work hard for themselves. My parents struggled financially, but they raised me to be a hardworking woman who did not think she was entitled to anything. The family did not help out when my parents were struggling to put me through college. If it was my parents that were in financial trouble, I was going to pay the debt no matter how much it was. But there was no way I was going to bail out people who made bad decisions on even when I tried to give them a way out. But they disappointed me over and over again. I did not even want to know how much debt they've been in, but you can imagine how much debt can be acquired by 4 unemployed people who spent their life making bad decisions. It was always like this in that family. I was shunned for having a better job even though I worked hard for it, and I was told that I was trying to make myself seem better than my family. I told my grandparents that there was no way I could afford to pay the debts of my cousins, because it was their responsibility and mine. I told them that I wanted them to accept my husband, but not on a bargain like this. My grandmother told me that ever since I became, quote, rich, I've done nothing for this family. I'm not going to list the number of times I've lent money to the same family members who talk crap behind my back, but yet, quote, I've done nothing for the family, as they like to say. An aunt interrupted and said that without my family's support, my marriage was not recognized in the community. She told me that I had a white husband, so he had to be loaded, so I could easily pay for her son's debt. I told her that if her son stopped being lazy and worked instead of acting like lower paying jobs were not good enough for him, then he would not be in this position. My grandfather asked me what I was going to tell my kids one day when they were not accepted into my family because of my stubbornness. I told him I don't care if the family did not accept my kids or my husband, but there was no way I was going to bail out their grandchildren. Do not even get me started on the insults. I started getting them from my cousins. They ganged up together to start attacking me and my personal life, saying hurtful things that I ended up running out of replies to. They called me stubborn, a sellout who forgotten about culture and the meaning of family. By then, my parents spoke up. My dad is a very calm person who does not like drama, but my mom, well, she's a little feisty. But this time, my father was the one being held back by mom. He destroyed the cousins who were saying nasty things about me. Everyone just stared at me in shock as he told them that they were also a mockery to the family. And I quote, "Sois malos primos, habláis basura por la boca." He told them they were spilling trash from their mouth, then proceeded to ask them how many of them gone to college, gotten married, and were not just staying with a different partner every single time. The other 2 cousins are more educated and hardworking like me, backed them up and said that I was not responsible for helping people who did not want to be helped. All the adults started saying that I was immoral, but my dad exploded and told them that he raised me to be a hard worker, with a good heart on her shoulders. He told them that not once had I gotten arrested, been a pregnant teenager, or dropped out of school, but was stopping them from raising their kids properly. My grandmother warned my father not to talk like that, especially to his father. My mother told her to shut up and leave my dad alone. She told Grandma that she's been controlling my father for far too long and he's a grown man who can make decisions of his own. My grandfather told my father to sit down and stop making a fool out of himself because he was being fooled by my ways. But my dad told him that the discussion was over and we were going to leave, and if they wanted the money, they could rob the bank for all he cared. But his daughter was not going to give such a ridiculous Christmas present at all. I never heard my father shout at anyone, or use swear words. But on the day he was on a roll and I felt so much better about the situation. The things the family said about me and my husband were probably going to be on my mind all week, but my dad made me feel so much better. Even my mom with her short temper protected me, and we stood there against them and I did not feel intimidated at all. And then my mother took the dessert that she made, which was a bit dramatic of her, but at the moment I was like, "Go mom!" They all looked at us as we left the dinner. I would later hear from my cousin that it was the worst Thanksgiving dinner ever in the family because they were all in a sour mood. and could only talk badly about my family. I told my parents that I was done with that side of the family. Message after message came from the family members uninviting me to birthdays, family events, and telling me that I could not set foot in any of the houses without a proper apology and paying my cousin's debt. And it was not just like a loan. No, it was years worth of accumulated debt from 4 irresponsible people, and if I paid them, then I was going to be left dead broke. So, the first thing I did was tell my husband what happened. He was disgusted by their behavior towards me, and he said that he would support whatever decision I made when it came to them. I made the decision when I was sitting there and listening to their nonsense, and it was then when I said I was done. The only family I had was my direct family and my 2 cousins. Both of them had deliberately moved to a different state to get away from the dramatic family members, and I don't even blame them. To make matters worse, my family took to social media to start dragging my name. They made previous posts calling me a disgrace, calling me disgraceful to the community and selfish because I did not want to help my cousins. My inboxes were flooded with messages from nosy neighbors and people I've not spoken to in years, insulting me and calling me disgusting names. I ended up making my accounts private because of the harassment. I was so tempted to open multiple defamation cases against them for dragging my name through the mud. But unlike them, I have class. Needless to say, I've stopped wanting their approval because the only important family I have, like my husband, and his family accepts me. I've not set foot there since that dinner, so my parents visit me at our house these days. This seemed like a very toxic situation for OP. I'm glad that she found happiness in the end, and she was still able to keep in contact with a couple of the cousins and her mom and dad. But the rest of the people she cut out, good. I think she needed to cut them out, because who are they to judge who she loves? Alright guys, let me know what you thought of this story, drop it down below. And I would like to know if there's been any similar situations with anyone listening from your side of the family, or maybe cousins or something like that. Drop it down below, and we're going to turn our attention to the final story of the day that comes complete with an update. Am I the a-hole for not helping my wife buy a dental office when she insisted to get a prenup before marriage? This one's crazy, let's get right to it. My wife and I, well, we're in our very late 30s. When we were getting married, we both were making about the same. Neither of us had anything. I did not want a prenup because I don't think that's how a marriage should work. But my wife wanted a prenup because she was going to dental school and thought when she opens her own clinic, she will make way more money than me and did not want to share any of that. Long story short, reluctantly, I agreed to the prenup. That also has a provision for future assets, and we basically have had separate finances ever since. Everything split 50-50 for the most part. To clarify, 50-50 when it comes to shared expenses like groceries or going out, she doesn't pay anything towards mortgage. She pays about 30% of the mortgage as rent each month. Recently, she started thinking about opening her own clinic and wants to buy a place which costs about $2 million, give or take, including any potential renovations and all the equipment. She won't get approved for a $2 million loan and does not have 20% to put down. Not to mention, she would need some buffer as well to pay employees, etc. For a couple of months at least until the business picks up. Part of it's understandable, university and dental school were expensive, and she started working later in life. But she's also, in general, spent money liberally. I graduated at 22 and over the years, bought 3 houses and saved up regularly to buy more rental properties and invest in stock. I can help her get a loan and pay her down payment, but since she wanted a prenup when we got married, I don't see why I should just give her or even lend her that much money. I told her I can help her with the loan, pay the down payment, be a co-signer, and pay the expenses until it's profitable if she splits the clinic 50-50. And no need to pay me back. Or I can loan her the money at 8% interest. She started losing it, being shocked at how I would even think about trying to take a percentage of her business. Friends and family say we're married and she's my wife, so I should help her succeed in her career. Give her the money, interest-free, and she'll pay me back whenever she can. I don't share the same sentiment. I think she made it clear how she wanted our financial lives to be when she insisted on a prenup. Also, people might say 8%'s a lot, but keep in mind, she cannot get a loan on her own. I'm risking $600,000 on a down payment and expenses for a few months when no bank would. This is the interest rate I would comfortably be with, and she'd be able to pay it back. The way buying dental clinics work is that they're valued based on how much cash flow, and they currently are based on the clinic she's looking at. She should be able to make good money there. Anyways, people around us are saying I'm being unreasonable and greedy. I disagree. My wife wanted a prenup and separate finances. She's getting just that. I don't see why I should help her with no benefit to me. So, am I the a-hole here? Alright guys, Mr. Reddito here, so this is a very interesting topic. I have a mini update, so let's go ahead and read that. A lot of people have been asking for an update to this, but 2 weeks after I made my post, I got a new phone and lost access to the original account. I did not remember my username or password for the account or the email. Anyways, finally remembered my username and I guessed the password a few times last week and here we are. Buying a dental practice, getting loans, sorting things out between me and the wife took me time. After a bunch of back and forth with my wife and weeks of sleeping in separate rooms, after many fights, we finally got down to talking about what the point of the prenup was in the first place and what were our thoughts about marriage and children. We did not see ourselves ever getting divorced and still loved each other. So, after some convincing, the wife said that the prenup is worthless if we don't intend to ever get divorced. We came to the conclusion that the prenup is not serving any purpose and decided to cancel it altogether. So, the whole prenup business is gone for now. Following that, now that everything's 50-50 by default, I'm helping with the expenses as stated in the original post, and we're back to our normal lives and celebrating this new chapter. We're gonna have a second kid, which is exciting, although scary at the same time. Since we're in our late 30s now, and we just always wanted 2 children. I don't think I mentioned it in the post that we have 1 kid together, but I think I've mentioned it in a comment. Anyways, thanks guys for listening. So, I have some really mixed feelings on this story, and the update to that too. But let's go ahead and read the number 1 comment from the update, and it kind of makes you wonder a lot of things. So let's discuss this comment, then talk about it in the comments below. Here's what the comment said. Yeah, it feels very ominous to me. The only reason the prenup got canceled was because it benefited her far more in the long run. Now she goes from having no assets to half of his. In the first one, he mentioned she spends all of her money. I don't know why he wouldn't see how the prenup was protecting him and their child's future. So someone who spends money liberally now has a huge influx of cash and was able to get their prenup voided? Yep, I think you're right. This will backfire. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that this will backfire canceling the prenup. I would love to hear your opinion on that. That's all the stories I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. The latest Mr. Reddito producer, Christine Billings. Thank you so much for the support.